Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Green, and welcome to the Menopause Podcast. I'm going to be interviewing my sister today, and we're going to be talking everything about the menopause. She happens to be a doctor here in the UK, and she runs a menopause clinic. So, welcome to the DXE Menopause Podcast. Hi, sis. How you doing?
Hi, Jim. All right. How are you?
I'm all right. I thought because obviously, you're a doctor, DXC, are kind of really caring about the menopause and the workplace. I thought we'd have this little kind of chat and get together because I know that you got a speciality in the menopause. So I thought we'd have this chat and get together to talk about it. So let's start off. I'm thinking we'll start off with kind of an overview. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to talk a bit about what the menopause is, when it kind of when it starts, or in general stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, okie doke. So, the menopause, if simply put, is when your periods stop. Obviously, you can only know that looking back retrospectively. So, really, what we say is that you've gone through the menopause when you've not had a period for a year. Although that can be a little bit more complicated because obviously there's other reasons why people might not have periods for one reason or another. And so the average age of the menopause is 51.
Okay.
But it can happen at a wide variety of ages. People can go through the menopause in the 20s, 30s, 40s. So if you go through the menopause before 45, that's called an early menopause. Before the age of 40, that's a premature menopause. So the average age is 51. And then people talk a lot about the perimenopause.
Okay.
So the perimenopause is from when your symptoms of the menopause start until your periods stop. And that can be for any kind of duration. So it could be for a few days, it could be for a few years. And classically, people might be going through the perimenopause in their 40s. And people are talking a lot about that at the moment, really, because it's something that people are starting to my landline's going off.
No worries. No worries. That's okay. That's okay.
So yeah,
That's why we're live and direct. That's the way real podcasts work. You see, because
yeah.
phones ring and that's okay.
100% real. So
everyone's listening to you on the podcast, thinking, "Yeah, give her a call now. She's on the podcast. We're going to give her a call and have a word with her while she's on the podcast."
it never rings normally.
No, but that's the way the metrics work sometimes as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? Go on. Right.
So anyway, yeah, the perimenopause is really important because people are starting to realize that you can be having these symptoms for a lot of years before you may even realize that you're heading towards the menopause. And they can be really, really subtle, and there's a huge array of symptoms that you can be getting.
Yeah, but let me ask the question then. So, is it difficult then? 'Cause you as a doctor, you must be seeing women. Is it and with symptoms, but is it hard to kind of say, yes, this is the menopause? Is there like a test you can take? Yes, I'm on the, a woman's on a menopause. Is there some kind of way to definitely say, yes, this patient has started, or this woman started the menopause? Is there, how does that work? You know what I mean?
So that is a really good question because people often come to us as a GP asking if there's a blood test that they can have to say that they're going through the menopause. But they're not very accurate. So there is a blood test that can give us a clue, but actually what really tells us whether somebody's going through the menopause or who is in the perimenopause, what really tells us is what the symptoms are doing.
Right.
So in somebody who has got really florid perimenopausal symptoms, they're having hot flushes, their mood's changing, all sorts of things. If I did a blood test and the blood test was normal, I would just ignore it anyway because I would go with what the symptoms doing. And the reason is that your blood test will vary according to what day it is. So during the perimenopause, your estrogen levels are going up and down. And the hormones that are associated with that are going up and down. So if you take it on one day, they could be completely normal. If you took it a few days later, it could show that you were menopausal. Blood tests are really inaccurate. We sometimes use them because they can be a bit of a clue in people who we are suspecting a very early menopause.
Right.
And so then we might do a blood test, because we don't want to just go by symptoms if it's very, very early. We want a bit more evidence to really know that we're doing the right thing for the woman. But around the time of a classic menopause, a classic perimenopause with classic symptoms, then the blood test isn't that useful.
Right. Okay. And you talked about these symptoms then. So let's talk a bit about the symptoms then. What kind of, what would be kind of classic symptoms? Because you mentioned some can be quite subtle. There's some kind of classic ones. I mean, I've heard of hot flushes. What's the things for people to look out for?
Yes. So the important thing here is that estrogen works on every part of our bodies. And
Estrogen is the hormone, isn't it? It's one of the female. I remember my I got A in human biology, yeah. So I know my so estrogen. Just for the listeners, estrogen is the main female, one of the main, because progesterone and estrogen, isn't there? So yeah, so estrogen.
Yes, so estrogen is the hormone that is produced by the ovaries, and when you're going through the menopause or through the perimenopause, your estrogen production is fluctuating and then declining, and that is what's responsible for the symptoms. So if you're so because that estrogen that you've been benefiting from for the whole of your life, and that's really helping to make various functions of the body work, when that fluctuates or declines, you can get all sorts of different symptoms. So hot flushes is obviously the classic one. Hot flushes, night sweats. But the tricky thing is that not everybody gets those. Some people might just feel a bit hot every now and again. Some people might not get any of that at all. So that can make the menopause really tricky to spot. But there are so many other symptoms. So there's a specific menopause symptom questionnaire that we often give out.
This is UK specific, because obviously we've got the whole of kind of DXE listening. So maybe in Europe and elsewhere it's kind of slightly different. So this is kind of UK specific from a tracker. So obviously for people outside in Europe and around the world, check with your doctor, because obviously it might be slightly different across the world.
Yeah, okie doke. So, if I just go through the symptoms that are listed on that questionnaire, there's a huge variety. So, palpitations, anxiety, poor sleep, poor concentration, low energy, lack of interest in things, brain fog, unhappiness, irritability, dizziness, tinnitus, headaches.
Tinnitus as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
I see it a lot, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, it's really surprised me. While I've been working in menopause, that tinnitus is quite a big feature.
Yeah. Okay, so what else we got on the list?
Urinary symptoms, vaginal dryness, low libido, and hot flushes. So hot flushes are just one potential part of all of those things.
So you mentioned tinnitus being a bit of a surprise. Then what are the symptoms that you've come across in your work in menopause that have surprised you as well?
I think what really is evident is how the menopause can often, not always, but often it can really affect people's mood. And the effect on mood and anxiety as well can have a huge impact on people's lives. And so that's why it can often be really tricky to spot, because often, if you're feeling anxious or if you're feeling low, you might go to the GP, and quite rightly, the GP will go through, you know, what are the various triggers? Why might you be feeling like this? The road might eventually lead down to antidepressants, to counselling. If that's the main feature of your menopause, and you and the doctor don't quite realise that actually this is all hormones. But you know, on careful questioning of the patient, it might you realise actually it's not just low mood, it's not just anxiety, but also perhaps they might be getting some more aches and pains, they might be getting some more headaches, they might be getting some brain fog, they might be tired, and it's really difficult because a lot of these symptoms you would get with a clinical depression as well, but really you know, it's about asking about all of these different symptoms and trying to put the jigsaw together.
And so just for everyone to listen, a GP is in the UK, it's a general practitioner, which is just a general it's a general doctor, so just an FYI. So I guess then are you looking at the age of the person as well then? Do you look at the age and think, okay, well, the kind of in you know, in the age range for the menopause, is that a factor when you're seeing patients as well, you know?
Yeah, it is, and often I'll see a patient who, you know, maybe in their late 40s, early 50s, and I'll look back at their doctor's notes and I'll see that over the last year they might have come in separately about individual symptoms. So one day they might have come in about aches and pains. One day they might have come in about low mood. One day they might have come in about palpitations. Another day about recurrent urinary tract infections. And each of those, they might have been investigated and treated separately.
Individually,
yeah. So, for example, they might have ended up on antidepressants for their mood. They might have been referred to a urologist and had a camera test into their bladder to find out why they're getting recurrent urinary tract infections. They might have been sent for an ECG because of their palpitations. And these are all obviously really good investigations and good ways of managing things individually. But often if you step back and you look at all of those symptoms together, and a light bulb goes on and you think, hang on, this is actually all just the menopause. And if we treat the menopause, then we treat all of these symptoms in one, and we don't need all these investigations. Having said that, we have to remember that sometimes, you know, these symptoms will be caused by other things, and that's why it's all about a careful questioning of the patient.
So I'm interested as well then, that kind of doctor-patient, you know, relationship, and I guess then it's about being aware yourself, isn't it? About, hey, you know, you're looking at the notes and seeing that, you know, the patient over a period of time has been in for different things, but it's also, I guess, that, you know, women can be aware as well of for themselves, and what kind of conversation, you know, is it good for you know, for a patient or a woman to raise it with the doctor, maybe a concern that maybe they've started the menopause, because maybe just to highlight it to the doctor that over the last year, 2 years, what kind of, you know, do you recommend that as a conversation, and, you know, to kind of lead it a bit?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the first trick is to recognize it yourself, as you said, isn't it? Because just as it might be difficult for us as doctors to spot and link them together, as a patient, you know, you're dealing with these symptoms on a day-to-day level. It can be difficult to step back and link them together yourself, and because, as we've said, a lot of these symptoms aren't the ones that you would think of necessarily when you think of menopause. And the other thing to say is that the time of life that the menopause and the perimenopause hits is often a time when lots is going on and lots of things can be responsible for how you're feeling. So, for example, you might have young or teenage children and the changing dynamics of that at home. Your parents' health might be suffering. You might have developed a new medical problem. Work might be stressful because you might have got to a point where, you know, you're really doing well at your job, and so all of those things, people often will perhaps put down the fact that they're tired to the fact that they've got young children, or the fact that they're stressed because work's stressful, or the fact that they're low and so it's very easy to attribute how you feel into life. And sometimes it might be,
Yeah.
but sometimes it might be that your hormones are at play.
Yeah, so it's a tricky one, isn't it? So it's a tricky one, and I guess there's more focus it on the menopause now, which is a good thing, isn't it? Now you mentioned about work. Obviously, we're on the DXE podcast about menopause, so I'm interested from a work perspective, and maybe just a shout out to how to deal with it in work, because obviously, I'm just wondering about that. Do you see that in your job, with patients coming in and how it's affecting the work life?
Yeah, and it can affect your work life in all sorts of different ways. So from the simple, most obvious way, women who are having hot flushes in the workplace, and they, sometimes we kind of joke about them, and women, when they actually have them, will joke about having a flush. But actually, if you're having 5 or 6 of them an hour and you're trying to get through some really difficult project at work, then it is really, really difficult to do what you need to. And so, if you work for somewhere who is understanding and will understand if you need to go out and get some fresh air, if you might need the window open, you might need a fan on your desk, that kind of thing. Is brilliant. But another thing that I hear a lot of is the effects of brain fog at work. So brain fog is a huge issue with the menopause for a lot of women. And so I often speak to women who perhaps have reached quite a high point in their careers. They're really good at their job. They've been doing it for a long time. And they'll go through the menopause, and all of a sudden, they're not able to concentrate. They're not able to juggle as many balls as they used to. They feel not as able to manage other people, and it really knocks their confidence. And it has a huge impact. And I've spoken to a lot of women who have thought of giving up the jobs, of changing the jobs to something less that needs their brain quite so intensely. And it's such a shame because it's such a loss to the workforce. So but there are things that can be done about it.
Exactly. So let's leave it there. That's the end of this episode. Wonderful, sis. Thanks for sharing. Now, on the second episode, my friends, we're going to be talking about symptoms. We're going to talk about treatments. So hold on to your hats, and we're going to be talking about treatments on the next one. Just to let you know as well that there is on Workplace. If you just type in search on Workplace, there is the Menopause in the Workplace group, and you'll find help and support there. Thanks very much for this first inaugural DXE Menopause. You've been amazing. It's been great. And we'll see you on the next one. So thanks for that.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.